Good evening, everybody. This is episode number 6 of DADMOMISMS. Tonight's topic is commonality. Um, Not that anybody really wonders, but if you are wondering, how do I decide on what I'm going to talk about? Well, usually it has to do with my everyday life and what's going on in my life. And I had conversations in the last few days with a couple different people in regards to, why does life change? Why does that commonality that we have with people from the time we're young till we, get older, or even along the process, people come and go in our lives. We have that fork in the road, and sometimes people go one way, sometimes people go another. Some of the reasons that happens, when we're younger, we have the closest friends, we're thick as thieves, and we get older and we wonder why aren't we connected anymore? Why, are they different? Why do they think different? Well, because when we're younger, we don't really have a lot of world experience or life experience, and we play ball together, we play hockey, we are in soccer, or maybe you're in dance, gymnastics, swimming, something that has a commonality, or you're in school together, something that keeps you connected. And all of a sudden you're a teenager and you might have a girlfriend, and then somebody else doesn't have a girlfriend, and all of a sudden you feel left out, or you're angry because or disappointed because now you're not seeing that person as much, and that follows us all the way into adulthood even. We don't necessarily have that connection to somebody. I'll give you an example. You could be in your early 20s and you could have, um, let's say you have kids. You get married, or maybe you're not married, but either way, you have kids, and now all of your single friends, they're out doing whatever they want to do, and they have their opinions on life, which are guided by the fact of their life experiences. Well, now when you have kids, your life experiences change. Your priorities change of what is important and what's valuable to you. Now you start to drift apart. Your commonality or your common interests or focuses in life are different. And you try to stay together. Sometimes you can work it out and still be friends. Sometimes it's family. Family drifts apart because one person has kids, another person doesn't. One person decides to go to university, as another example. One person doesn't. One person, just has completely different goals than the other, and their commonalities cause them to separate and split. Does that make it bad? No, not necessarily. It is what it is. Sometimes people aren't meant to be beside you your whole life. I know I've looked at my life and I looked at some of the experiences and friendships I've had over the last, you know, 50 years of my life. And some of those friendships are gone a long time ago because we drifted apart. There was no commonality. Some of them I kept going longer than I should have. Um, their energies were different. My energies were different. Our commonality was not there. We had nothing in common. But I used the past as a reason to keep that friendship alive. And they may have been doing the exact same thing. But bottom line, though, that's not necessarily the best reason to keep a friendship, a relationship, or anything alive because of the past. The past is the past. It's not indicative of the future, but it can be a goalpost for us to push ourselves forward. For others, the past is an anchor, and it's over their shoulder, holding on to them and pulling them back and keeping them into the same game that they've been their whole life. Go to work, go home, get paid. Other people, their lives change, right? They are constantly striving to move forward. And when you have children, for an example, use that as an example, your life constantly moves forward. As they grow up, they have their extracurricular activities, they have school stuff, you have events to go to for with them. Then you have your life that you're living, right? So those commonalities that you would have had with somebody that's single that has none of that are completely gone. Back to the school side, you're in university or you're in college and you're taking courses that are focused on your aspirations or what you are excited about in life. and that other person has no desires or doesn't get what you're doing or why you're doing it, and you're having to work late at school, you're having to study hard, work hard, and things happen. You're goal orientated to get through school, so you're not focused on the fact of what they are, which is going out, and maybe they're going out and partying lots, or they're doing lots of adult extracurricular activities that you don't have time for because school is more important for you. So your commonalities start to split and wane. And when you get together, it doesn't matter the circumstances, you start having conversations about what's interested to you right at that point in your life. If it's kids, you're talking about your kids. If it's a single person listening to it, they're like, they can't even begin to relate to why you're talking about kids all the time, right? And but you're excited about it because that's a new chapter or a new story in your life, a new journey in your life. I don't necessarily like to say new chapter. Sometimes we close that book, and that book is our single life, and now all of a sudden we have a book of family life, right? Or you had a chapter or a book that talked about your young life, your high school life, and all of a sudden now you've gone on to secondary education, and that's a new book, a new chapter. You're going to start hanging out with people that are school orientated in your field of interest, whereas your friends, maybe they just decided to go right from school to working in the trades, for an example, working in the energy industry, the oil industry, working at the local restaurant as a cook or a waiter or waitress or whatever. Somebody working at Walmart. Everybody has their different things that they want to do in life, and it's hard for them to relate to what you're doing, and your commonalities aren't there, so you drift apart, and that's okay. Sometimes we just need to learn that, hey, it's okay, life moves on. That person was in my life when they needed to be in my life, and I was in their life when they needed me to be in their life, but now it's time for me to move on, time for them to move on. Doesn't mean that it has to be where you never talk or see them again, but when commonalities start to fall apart, it's not necessarily that you will see them. You might see them once a year, twice a year. You might see them once or twice a month, once or twice a week. But when it comes to people that you have commonalities with, you maybe see them once or twice a day, right? Sometimes a few times a week, or whatever the case may be, because you have commonalities. Maybe it's work interests, maybe it's the same goals, aspirations. Maybe it's the fact that you have a family, they have a young family, you're both in different, your kids are in different extracurricular activities, or maybe you're out doing a hobby or belong to a club or something to do with your church or whatever volunteer stuff you do. So all of a sudden now that commonality attracts you to those people that have that same commonality. So it's okay to have life change, right? It's okay to have people that you are constantly always hanging out with, and now you're just okay seeing them once or twice a year, right? Sometimes once every few years. I've seen some friends recently I hadn't seen in I think it'd be like 15 years, and we picked it up like it had been weeks since we had seen one another, because we always had some commonalities that we could talk about. We were good friends prior, we were both in school together, we both went different ways. I left that industry of electronics engineering, got into finance. He stayed in electronics, and that's okay. We still cared about one another. We helped one another. We were there for each other on that path and that journey of our lives. And now his path goes one way, my path goes another. We see each other, and in this extreme case, it had been, like I said, more than a decade, and we still got along great. Does it mean that we're going to talk every once a month, couple times a month, couple times a year? Probably not. Doesn't mean I don't care about him, don't care about his family, but I stay focused on where my commonalities are. Anyway, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I hope that you're getting some value from what people call vlogs or whatever you want to call it, from my little videos. And if there's anything that you would like to ask, or concerns you have about what I'm saying, I don't mind criticism as long as it's constructive and it's not hurtful and asked in an appropriate way. You're welcome to comment or DM me. And I just want to say I appreciate you all. God bless. Peace out.